So lately I've been reading a lot of Invincible comics, and I came across the character of Conquest, and I absolutely loved him, because he's just this cold and brutal and menacing villain. But fair warning for everyone watching this video, quit now if you haven't watched the show or you don't want to get spoiled on what's going to happen in the comics or Season 2 or Season 3. But anyway, Conquest actually appears in the show Invincible for a very short time, and that amount of time was the flashback they had of what life on for the Viltrumites was and what they were like. Before we go into the history of the character, I'd like to take a brief moment to look at the powers of the character. And the thing about Conquest that's interesting is he has all the same powers as Omni-Man because he's a Viltrumite. But at the same time, he's more powerful because he's older, because the older Viltrumites get, the more powerful they become. And Conquest has a lot of experience unlike Omni-Man does. But Conquest got his start in Invincible issue number 61 in the aftermath of the event known as Invincible War. And the Invincible War is basically the story where you have this villain called Angstrom who opens all these different multiversal portals and just brings in all these evil versions of Mark Grayson. And because of that he did that, they just start wreaking havoc on the city, and all the heroes of Image Comics get involved. You had Spawn, you had a bunch of characters getting involved and killing off these many multiversal versions of Invincible. But in the aftermath of this, Eve was injured and the city was in ruins, and Mark tries to help try to clear that up. But then we're met with the arrival of Conquest, who tells them, look, I've been sent by the Viltrumites to observe and make sure that you're doing your job of taking care of this planet, and if you try to oppose me, I will kill you. And Mark's like, okay, cool, I need somebody to fight. So the two just rush at each other, just ready for a no holds barred, and they fly up, and they're in the sky fighting, and Conquest's like, I want my fist drenched in blood, and Mark punches him, and he just looks Mark in the face and goes, ha, you're getting there. And he's not even fazed by this punch, and then he smacks the crap out of him. And the two go flying into a abandoned building, just bringing it down. And the thing about Conquest is, he's crazy. During this whole fight, he just completely keeps going, I want more. I want you to give me your all, because I want a true fight. Then Mark decides to punch him into space, but again, Conquest is just completely unfazed by this, and he takes him back into orbit of Earth. And they fight, and Conquest all of a sudden just gets really bored, and he's like, you know what, I've had enough of these childish games. And he smacks Mark with so much force, he breaks his mask. While all this is going on, it gets so bad that it's now in the news, and Mark's mother and his brother have now seen what's going on. And I know what you're thinking, Mark has a brother? Yeah, he's got a brother. And this actually happens very close right after what happened in the finale, where, Omni-Man leaves Earth after nearly killing his son, after realizing that Earth has changed him and made him into a better person. And so he goes off-world to this other planet, he mates with another alien, and they had this kid, and the kid would be named Oliver, who would then become the hero known as Young Omni-Man. So anyway, Oliver goes flying after Mark and Conquest, but he can't even catch up to them because they're moving way too fast. Eventually he does catch up, and he's like, look, I'm about to give you a big-ass beatdown. And Conquest responds with one of the coldest lines I've heard in a while, and he's like, well, who the hell are you? Because I want to know the name of the person I'm fixing to dismember. Yeah, Conquest doesn't play around, and that's why I love him, because he's so brutal. But anyway, Mark grabs his brother, throws him out of the way. He's like, look, get out of here, he will kill you. And Conquest responds disappointed. He's like, you idiot, he could have helped you. And besides, you could have taken a rest while I'm killing your brother. And then he's like, until I feel that Viltrumite heart in my hand, I will not be satisfied. So Mark decides to headbutt him, and Conquest is still unfazed by this. And he's like, look, child, if that's all the power you got, I'm about to whoop you even more. While all this is going on, Eva wakes from her hospital bed and sees the news and sees Marcus fighting someone. She thinks it's Omni-Man. So she rushes over there to try to go help him because they're currently dating. Young Omni-Man then tries to attack Conquest after he completely bitch slaps Mark. But this goes horribly because Conquest grabs him so freaking quick and makes quick work of him, about to rip him in half until Mark shows up and moves Young Omni-Man away, then Conquest throws him through a whole ass battleship. The two continue fighting, and Eve shows up, try to help, and Mark's like, no, you gotta get out of here. And Eve's confused because she thought he was fighting Omni-Man. And Conquest is like, yeah, that's bad news for you. So, Mark tries to grab Conquest and get him away from Eve, but Conquest is not having it, so he slashes Mark's leg and completely shatters it. Eve tries to bubble him up, but Conquest is too freaking powerful, so he thunderclaps it open, and then he uppercuts Eve and sticks his entire hand through her freaking abdomen. Mark then rushes over to Eve to, make sure she's okay, but she's not. And Conquest is like, takes the time to gloat. And he's like, look, I want to thank you so much for pissing off the Viltrumites. Because if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here right now just letting loose like I haven't done in a very long time. And Mark, he kind of responds to this and he's like, listen, I can see the future. You don't live to see tomorrow, no matter how strong you are. And Conquest, he just kind of laughs at this because he's like, look, you're threatening me when I've been just kicking the crap out of you. So the two charge each other again. But Mark charges them with so much force, he breaks Conquest's entire cybernetic hand. And it just shatters and goes everywhere. The two continue their fight. And it's a very brutal fight. Conquest, they're punching each other. Mark is hitting him with all he's got. Like, this is Mark at his most pissed. And he even takes a chunk out of Conquest's, shoulder. So while they're fighting, Eve is starting to regenerate her body, and she starts to revive herself. Now, Mark starts to realize this, and he kind of goes over there, and so does Conquest. He's like, you know what, I'm going to go finish her off. And Mark's like, yeah, you're not fixing to do that. And he smacks him and proceeds to give him the beating of a lifetime by literally headbutting him over and over and over, killing him. Now, by this time, Cecil and the rest of the heroes of Image Comics have showed up to try to help, but Conquest is dead, Eve has been revived, and Mark is very badly injured. However, Mark quickly recovers at their base of operations, and Cecil shows them Conquest's dead body to prove, hey, he's dead. However, Cecil was lying, which is, I don't know why he did this, because he's kind of an idiot, I guess, or he thought it'd be a good idea, but he decided to keep Conquest alive to interrogate him. And Donovan's like, that's a horrible idea, and Cecil's like, well, listen, the place is a 400-ton thing, so if he moves, it blows up. And of course, Conquest moves, and the place blows up. And Conquest, of course, gets away. Because like I said, Viltrumites, their skin is invulnerable. And they can handle a lot. So Conquest flies off into space, and Cecil's like, I messed up. It's like, yeah, you did. Because now this menace is going to continue messing with the universe as well as the galaxy. That is a huge problem. While there would be a couple of issues till we saw Conquest again, we did find out something interesting about Conquest, though. And that's thanks to Omni-Man and Alan's adventure where they went to go find stuff they could kill Viltrumites. Because Omni-Man, when he turned over a new leaf, he started working for the Coalition of Planets, and he told them, hey, this is the stuff they can take out Viltrumites. And there were two big things, and one of them was the Scourge virus. Now, for those of you, I guess, who don't know and haven't read the comic, this is a huge spoiler, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Viltrum is not as populated as it used to be. It's not filled with warriors, and that is because one of their enemies released a virus all over the planet, and it killed off hundreds, maybe, I think it was like hundreds, thousands, like a couple million, a bunch of them. So there are very few Viltrumites left, which is why they're so content on going to planets, conquering them, and mating so they can rebuild their society. And that's the whole purpose of the Viltrumites right now, and that's what they want, is because they want to repopulate. That's what they're trying to do. And basically, because of this virus, after it happens, Viltrumites become very weak. Even if they survive, they're still very weak for a little bit. And Conquest was one of those Viltrumites that survived the virus. And because of this, he ended up on the planet filled with Rognars. And Rognars were these alien creatures that were extremely deadly to Viltrumites, because they had been known killers of them. And so you have Conquest showing up with his abilities dampened. And so when he gets there, he just gets beaten up and messed up real quick. He gets his arm, just completely ripped off, and his eye badly scratched. Which is why when you see him in Invincible, he has a cybernetic hand as well as a scratched eye. And fun fact, he actually can't see out that eye either. While Omni-Man and Alan prepare for war, Conquest returns back to the Viltrumites. And he stands in front of his leader, and he's terrified. And this is the only time you'll see Conquest scared, is because he doesn't want to disappoint his leader. And the leader kind of tells him, look, you're this deadly animal, but you're only useful on a leash, and yet you still found a way to fail me because you were too busy playing with your food like an idiot. And that's the difference between him and his leader, is the leader, which is the Grand Regent of the Viltrumites, Throg, is smart and tactical, which is why he's the leader. But Conquest, he is too crazy to be kept under control. But anyway, Throg tells him, look, I'll let this slide, but you have to take down Mark and his dad because they're on their way. Because war is coming, and I need you to keep them from getting here. And this all leads into the events of the event known as the Viltrumite War. And in Viltrumite War, basically what happens is the Coalition of Planets and our heroes, Mark, Omni-Man, and his brother, are fed up with the Viltrumites. So you know what, screw it, we're going to war with them. And that's what Alan and Omni-Man had been preparing for. However, on their way there, in the spaceship they're taking, it gets completely blown up. And so Mark and his dad, they fly outside, and who's there waiting for him? None other than Conquest. And he's like, oh, sweet, I get a second chance at this. And he even tells Mark, he's like, look, I'm going to leave you last because I want to make you watch me kill all your other teammates. And even like Omni-Man, this is the crazy part when reading this, is he actually ends up looking out the ship and seeing Conquest, and he's like, that's not good. Like, even Omni-Man is a little bit terrified of him. But anyway, Conquest and the Viltrumites start attacking Mark and his other teammates. And, you know, Conquest bitch slaps Oliver, because why not? And Conquest also gets his hands on Omni-Man, and he's like, look, I get to kill a traitor. I'm so excited. And he headbutts Omni-Man in the face, which completely pisses off Mark, because he's like, he's already been through this guy and caused him enough trauma. So Mark grabs a hold of him and just starts beating the crap out of him. Now, one thing to remember is this isn't Mark holding back like last time, because last time he wanted to be a hero, and now he's realized sometimes you have to kill your villains. And so he chases after Conquest after Oliver tries to fly to a planet to get more air because he's running out of breath. And Mark follows after to keep Conquest from attacking him. And he tackles Conquest to the ground, and the two go crashing into the planet's surface. Mark would then grasp his hand around Omni-Man's neck, start strangling him. And Conquest, he flies up in orbit with Mark still attached. But Mark is like, look, I'm not letting go. And he tightens his grip, and the two fly up into orbit. Mark then gets uppercutted by Conquest, but he's still not letting go. So he's got him in a death grip around his neck. Conquest then does the same move he did to Eve, but Mark is unfazed by this, continuing to choke the monster. He then throws Conquest to the ground and just chokes the living life out of him, and slowly but surely killing him. Mark is left injured while Conquest is left dead. Mark would eventually heal from his injuries, and while Conquest would remain dead, we were introduced to an alternate version of him. And all you need to know about this version of the character, I'm not going to go too deep into it. He's basically just the right-hand man of the evil version of Mark Grayson, who killed Eve and took over the Viltrumites. But yeah, guys, that's Conquest, and he's a really awesome villain, as you can see, and I can't wait to see him in the next couple seasons of Invincible. And I don't really know who I'd want to voice him, but I feel like the guy who voices Kratos would be cool. And if you guys want to find out how the rest of the story goes, I highly suggest you go pick up Invincible and go read it. It's a great series, and if not, just wait for the future seasons. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.